I'm going to go ahead and get started so we can use our time. I'm going to go to about 10:05, and then we have a couple of, I call it bureaucratic components here to get you ready for the next session. So, good morning to everybody. My name is Brian Ladd, and I'm a national trainer. I recognize some of the districts and some of the schools on here that I've worked. I just saw La Cañada, which I actually just did the pilot for. Just popped up with Christine. And so I'll be walking you through middle school navigation, navigate, teach, and plan. Taylor, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Taylor Kessler. I'm an account manager with TCI. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised, and I'll be here to help Brian with the chat and different things.
And I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. Born and raised here, lived back east a couple years, but for the most part, I've been here and I've used TCI. I used it all 30 years in my classroom, and I'm recently retired teachers who walk through. Taught middle school science and a lot of social studies too in middle and high school. So really familiar with TCI. Again, housekeeping, they went over that with you before. In the Q&A, Taylor's going to monitor that. I actually have my chat shut. And so if there's any specific questions for everybody, he might he might say, I'm going to get to it, or he'll interrupt me and say, Hey, Brian, here's a great question here. Also, if it's something specific to your school or yourself or your district, Taylor might answer that directly to you as you go through in there. Okay, I'm going to move on here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at navigating TCI, slideshow delivery and format, and then resources in our in-app PD as we walk through. Again, some of you, this will be old hat, others will be like, oh, this is new. So feel free to say, hey, can you repeat that? Is there what? I'm sorry, I get some fumble. Can you repeat that? Can you go over that again? Any of those things are fine here. Okay, so yep, sorry. All right. So these are our TCI middle school science programs. If you're in California, it may be a different program, which I'll show you on the next slide. So these are on the top are our earth space sciences, our life sciences, and our physical sciences. Some of you are doing all earth sciences at sixth grade, let's say, seventh grade life physical is eighth. Some of you have created your own integrated programs by combining these different disciplines. So it's different by district as you go through. In California, many of the California schools, I know a couple in Missouri and one in New York, also have what we call our integrated programs where the different components, the different disciplines are integrated throughout. Sixth grade integration has no physical science, but all the other seventh and eighth grade have both physical and earth space and life sciences there. So that's the overall program that what we offer there. TCI is very integrated with NGSS. I know a few states, such as Ohio, they don't use NGSS, but we have this crossover that we work with districts to use that the NGSS standards to work with their states themselves. Yes, Heather, anybody can get integrated as we go through. That was going to be my next thing because people say, can we do it too? Yes, you can in there. And you can ask for demos and you can ask for copies of that so you can look at that as you go through. So with our every unit with in every lesson, we start with an observing phenomena. We move to our three-dimensional investigations, our CCCs, SEPs, and DCIs, disciplinary core ideas, science and engineering practices, and our cross-cutting curriculum, excuse me. And that's part of NGSS. We do these investigations. There can be one, two, or three. One of the things to make sure you understand that you don't have to do every investigation as you go through. You can pick and choose how you want to do it. Flexibility is key. It's hard to get through an entire program, so flexibility is key. You also don't necessarily have to teach in order as you walk through the program. That's up to you and how you want to do that. Once we get through the investigations, we tie those investigations back to the original phenomena. So we're looking at that original phenomena and saying, okay, what is it here? And then how do we process this? And then we also have our three-dimensional assessments that are NGSS designed that you can actually change. You can use them. They are not traditional assessments. As many of you know, there's a lot of thinking, think like a scientist. They're doing analysis. They're learning as they're actually being assessed in there. We also have something called a performance assessment, which I'll be doing in the third session about alternative ways to do a unit assessment for your students and how to assess them more authentically as you walk through there. Any questions? Again, this is just a brief overview here. Okay, let's go live. That's where you want to be. So hopefully you're on your own program. I happen to be in an eighth, typically it's an eighth grade waves program. I'm not going to say it is eighth grade because some districts I know have done it, put it in the seventh grade. And so this is, oops, I just messed up as usual. Sorry. Oh, sorry about that, folks. There we go. Okay. Um, my screen's just gone blank here. I apologize for that. There we go. It's gone back. All right. Tech issues, education. We know how that works. Okay. So this is your landing page, your home page. If you're integrated, it's going to look a little bit different, but still similar here. This is the landing page for you. Your students will look very similar. In fact, if I want to know what my students page looks like, I look right here. There's a key. It's located in many components. If I click on the key itself, it'll allow me to log in as one of my students. Those of you who've had me before know I put my dogs in my class all the time. So what I did is I clicked on the key. I can pick a student in my class, and then I would sign in as that particular student. This would show me what the student site would look like as we walk through here. And so if they had assignments, the assignments would be here. If I click go to assignments, they've already completed an assignment and it's been turned in. So this is what the student side would look like. You might want to do that because you might want to see what the student has been doing. You might have a resource teacher, an administrator, a parent who wants to see the student work online. So you can click on that. Over here, we have in our settings, which I'll get to a little bit later, you can control student features. The home page, again, this is the home page with each one of the units. And then I'll walk through this in a little bit. Right now, this particular discipline, waves, has 3 units: mechanical, light, and waves for transfer. I'm going to look at unit 2, light waves. And when I'm on this unit, this is a unit overview page. We have a storyline talking about a local art gallery wants to install a new show about light and its amazing effects. And the students, if you decide to do the performance assessment, which is a culminating unit assessment, would create a light show using all the different components of the information that we're providing. And here are the SEPs, the CCs, and the DCIs that are within this particular unit. We always start with a unit video, which I'm going to show you very quickly.
Like water waves, light is also a type of wave that you experience in the world around you every day. But if you pay close attention, there are many things that light does that you might not find so easy to explain. Have you ever wondered how you can see reflections in a window and see through the window at the same time? Why does the bottom of a swimming pool seem to move but stops when you look at it from underwater? Why does a landscape look so strange through curved glass objects? Or what makes diamonds sparkle so much? Or why do rainbows form after it rains and near waterfalls, but rarely form anywhere else? Over the course of this unit, you'll discover answers to these questions and many more. At the end of this unit, you will be challenged to use
To get the idea. And even if you weren't going to do the performance assessment, the cumulative, you can still show this to get your kids and your students engaged. You'll also notice we have closed caption. And so I always love to put closed caption on. Some of my students are actually reading it too, and it's authentically translated. And down on the bottom left, everything is also in Spanish. So if I click Espanol, everything will go to Spanish.
like water waves.
Of course, this just didn't do that. It will close caption in Spanish in there. I'm having hiccups with technology today in there. Down below here, so that's an intro. Down below here is your planning. Misconceptions, really important because our students always have misconceptions. Sometimes we do as teachers too. So here are some of the misconceptions to help you as you go through. Unit progression, it'll walk you through. We have a video that walks you through the unit progression. Um, Here's the 3D summary, what they're learning in this part, a little bit of teacher background to help you because we may not all be experts in a certain area. And then what I find really important in this box is unit highlights, what not to miss. So if you don't have time to cover everything, you click on the what not to miss, and it's telling you very specific things within the investigations that you need to make sure that you cover for your students to have a thorough understanding. So this is really important. Teachers are always saying, I really appreciate that because I don't always have time to do everything here. The performance assessment is down here. We have practice NGSS questions. All the videos that are contained in the program are right here. We have a lesson review game. I'll show you in a little bit. Biographies are non-scope and sequence. You can pick and choose. They're only available online. So if you have print editions and the interactive student notebooks, biographies are only available online. You would need to assign those. You can do that for enrichment. You can do that days you might have a sub. And the biographies, some actually will have a video that plays with them and reads to them. Others, it's just reading, but there are some questions that are associated with it. This library is the same no matter which unit you are in. So you walk through. Okay. Down below are the two lessons. Those of you who are familiar with TCI, which is a lot of you, know that we don't have chapters, we have lessons because we write these lessons, we create these investigations, we do everything around these lessons themselves. So it is a lesson, and the reading as with NGSS is suggested as we go through in there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is because I'm in the unit, and Taylor, are we okay with the chat and questions?
Yep.
All right, excellent. Jennifer says, I don't have the misconceptions tab in the planning section. It, what I've found is not every unit will have those misconceptions in there, so it depends on which unit you happen to be in there. So, okay. I am going to go to the lesson overview because this is where we're going to live and we're teaching. It's really in the lesson itself. So there's an orange box. Anything that's orange is for teachers only. Your students, this would not show up. What's my essential question? What evidence is there that the light is a wave? Lesson overview, the time frame, learning progression. You can walk through all of these connecting to the unit as well as the lesson phenomena. Materials, what materials am I going to need? And this is really important. Most districts buy the kits themselves. And when I look at all these materials, I want to know what the materials are, where they are. If it says handout, you would need to print those. I always printed them on good paper, and then I put them in sheet protectors so I'd have them over and over again, be able to use that. The Interactive Student Notebook is the consumable. Some of you are just using the online component of this. That is fine too. But what I want to do is I want to go to See Materials Details. And when I go to See Materials Details and I hover over the bin, it will tell me which box, which bin, which bag the materials are actually in. So I don't have to search all over as we go through. So it's really gives me detail about what I am looking for in there. Then teacher prep. What do I need to do as a teacher to prepare for this? Differentiating instruction, super important to me because we do not have homogeneous classrooms, and we need to make sure that all our students have access to the same learning, which is really important with TCI. So what can I do for my ELL students, my students reading and writing below grade level, which we all have, my learners with special ed needs that can be physical or another otherwise, and then my advanced learners, the person who gets done super fast and then says, now what do I do? And sometimes we know that can be the most dangerous person in a classroom because they have lots of materials and a lot of free time. We also have pacing options. How do I do quicker coverage? Unfortunately for me, I found I often needed to do quicker coverage because we just ran out of time. We had disruptions. I mean, who put Halloween in the middle of the week and I lose an entire day and a half? Deeper coverage. I want to go into more depth, or I might have students who want to be enriched further there. And then finally over here is enhancing learning. I always show this when I do orientations, pilots, et cetera, but teachers forget about this. What else is available for my students to further enrich the students? Sometimes they can be FET, sometimes they can be virtual field trips, they can be videos. There's lots of other components here. You cannot assign these because they're outside of the TCI curriculum, but they're areas that could further enhance that learning yet. Okay, questions on the overview. Let's get down to the fun stuff. This is our investigation slideshow. This is what you're showing your students. We have prepared it for you. Yes, it's editable. And if we have time, I'll show you a quick way to do that. And this is how I will, oh my gosh, my screen keeps going blank. I apologize for that. Okay, so this is the observing phenomena we start off with. Right here, I can click on anything and it will take me to that particular lesson. I'm going to start with our observing phenomena. And we ask our students, remember that phenomena is something that's naturally occurring. We want them to look at the image in their notebook, and this is what it would look like in their notebook. You can project this and say, how many fish are there? And I'm looking at this, and I want the students, we'll have them do a think, pair, share before they answer as they go through, if you'd like. Everything would read to them too. You can have your students online. I know they mentioned it in the welcome session. You can also enter teacher pace mode, where if you have your students actually go and they actually open up and they would be notified that you're in teacher pace mode, and you could actually have your students, they would open the slides and they would be to this slide and they could not move on. They'd be at this slide. And then when you move to slide two, it would go to slide two. So again, that's a little more in depth on that, but just give you an idea. It's pretty easy to figure out there. Another question teachers often ask me, I'm in my second period and I'm entering information and it's locked in. And then what happens is I go to my third period to teach the same thing and I've got answers. Well, if I go to the three dots at the bottom, the same three dots, teacher pace mode, I can restart the entire slideshow and it will erase everything. So I have a fresh copy for my next period. Bingo, in there. If you assign this to your students, they would never see the show answer key, by the way. So to erase anything I wanted, if I wanted a fresh copy, I go to the three dots and it would erase everything. So then we have our phenomena, optical illusion, and I'm not going to walk through a whole lesson, but it takes you step by step. But we then suggest when the reading should occur. If you see a green button, that is an action button. That is telling you to go somewhere. And this is going to take me to the reading. I did it a little quick. So I'm going to hit the green button, reading. We're going to do this whole class for now, right now. And I'm going to open this window so it's an entire window rather than a window within a window. And here you have the reading. And some of you don't have the physical textbook, some of you are just online. You'll notice we have reading levels. You will not see all these AI generated reading levels. Your district needs to opt into that right now. Most of you will see the default is standard, which is grade level Lexile. If I go to level B, it drops at about 20 to 25%, and that's what almost all of you are going to see. If your district wants to choose to go into the I could lower that grade level to fourth, fifth grade, and that would drop it in an AI mode there. So this is something that's brand new, but your district must opt into that. So you want to talk to your coordinator, et cetera, about that ability to lower that because we have kids at all reading levels. It's also text to
The
speech.
wave model of light. What evidence is there that light is a wave?
The text to speech is for our students who are dyslexic, reading and writing below grade level, emerging readers and writers. I find this to be a little quick for those students who need that. I know it's a slow speed.
The wave model of light.
It does this. All right, go back to slow.
The wave model of light. What evidence is there that light is a wave? Introduction.
So that is much better for my students who need that particular differentiation. It's a little bit slower for them. You also notice a gray button. It's been out for about a year. That button is not active. But if I highlight any passage, it becomes active. I can then pick a language. If there's actually a microphone, it will read to them. Let me go to, oh, Mandarin, and then it will pop up.
看看照片里的玻璃杯，当你透过装满水的透明玻璃杯看，
And so I'll read to them. It is AI generated. If there is not a microphone, then it will just, if I did Armenian, it would just pop it up, but it wouldn't read to them yet in there. So it's something new. It's something for those emerging readers and writers, something that is um, really valuable for those students. Okay. Okay. Um, Questions on that so far? Pictures. If I click on it, it'll blow up. I can drag my cursor across, get my students more involved in what's happening in there. Okay. I can also highlight the main ideas. I really like that main ideas highlighted because my students always struggle between a main idea and a topic sentence. This is also great for a quick read, and it's also great for my students who, for a review for an assessment of some type, so they can minimize what's going on there. In there. So that's some of the highlights of the reading component of the text in there. As I'm going to go back to the slideshow, I'm going to go really quickly, just show you the different parts. And then we start the first investigation. We look at it. We're discovering in this phenomenon. I'm just walking through the different parts of this particular lesson. Then I have investigation 2, investigation 3. And then remember, you don't have to do all 3. You can look at the what not to miss. And if I go to the making sense of the phenomena, we go back to that original phenomena about the goldfish. How many goldfish are they looking at? And remember, we're talking about light here. And then we summarize. There's always a claim, evidence, and reasoning component for every lesson as you walk through. In most states, 7th grade is reasoning is introduced in ELA. And then we tie this back into our original unit phenomena if you're doing the original unit phenomena. And then finally, the vocabulary. It's a drag and drop. You can assign this to your students if you want. So this is the investigation slideshow. This is you present to your students. We also have key science concepts that you can go through with your students. I'm not going to cover that right now as you go through in there. So again, this is what you show your students. It can be assigned or not assigned. Questions on the investigation slideshow. If I wanted to edit it, I could. I hit edit. Paper and a pencil means edit. And it's making a copy of the whole thing. And then I can do anything I want to it. If I wanted to get rid of this picture, I just edit, clear the picture, and then I can add a picture. We don't have a bank of pictures. You would need to take a screenshot or a snippet. It needs to be 2 megabytes, and those will fit in. All the pictures I always like are like 500 megabytes, et cetera. So just take a snippet or a screenshot and that will fit in. Videos, you can also do Vimeo or YouTube videos. The commercials will not show up on those. Now, where did that copy go? This is a TCI original. Any copies that I make will fall under my slideshows. So here's some copies that I made. These are the ones that are mine, my slideshow. So TCIs are here. You can't change the original. Any ones I created are here. If I change from teaching waves to teaching earth space science, and then I go back to waves 2 years later, all my material is still there. Anything I change, anything I deal with will never disappear as long as I have my subscription. The other question I get with slideshows, if I'm doing the slideshow, I've created one and I want to share it. You can't work on it together, but what you can do is I want to share this with Taylor. So I would just copy the URL. I would email Taylor. He would open it up and then he would just go down and hit edit. And then it would make a copy in his slideshows. So to share it, you copy the URL, you send it to the person with the same subscription. They would open it up, hit edit, and as soon as you hit edit, it forces a new copy and downloads it into Taylor's My Slideshow. So it would appear in right here. You can't co-edit it. We don't have that ability yet. Google kind of controls all that. But that's a workaround for you to be able to slide, because sometimes we like to share our work. Questions on that? Okay, I'm going to go over to settings. And you remember on the reading, there are a lot of components. I was showing you things you can and you can't do. But under settings, I'm going to click on student features. Under settings, I'm going to click on student features. I'm going to go here in a different location as we go through. If you are a teacher, I'm down to allow multiple attempts on settings, student features. If you're a teacher who says students should just have one chance at something and not be able to reset it because they can hit reset, unclick these. Then they cannot have multiple attempts. If you don't care if they reset it and do it over and over again, leave it clicked. Okay, so click or unclick. It's up to you. If you unclick, they can't reset it or restart it from their program. If you have it clicked, you give them the ability to do that as you go through. Student access. This is really important. Most of you will have these checked as a default. All, maybe all but one in there. What this is saying is when I give my students their subscription online, they're able to access any of these components in any lesson, any part of TCI. So if I am on investigation 3, I could have students on investigation 5 because these are checked, which means they have access to any component of TCI. If I uncheck these, it will now say that my students cannot access anything until I assign it. This gives me control on what my students see. If I haven't assigned it yet, they cannot see it. It keeps them focused in the area that I want them to be focused on. What will happen, it will say, if they try to open their reading and you have these unchecked, it will say not assigned by teacher. Anything that you've assigned, they can go back and look at, but they cannot go forward. Is everybody following that? This is big aha for teachers because they're like, I want my students to do the questions in their interactive student notebook. I don't want it online. If I unclick this, the questions, the reading checks, etc., in the reading online will not show up. So it's you have control on that. Questions on this? Okay. I'm going to go down to my classes. So again, the big deal here, and don't worry about this. Students can't drop out of the class. It's for really small districts here. I'm going to go to my classes. So I'm in my classes, and I have a very small class. My classes, I click on actions, and I'm going to click on manage students. My students will now appear, and I can then control individually what my students can and cannot see. For example, Pearl's reading level needs to be, and remember, it needs to be at a level B. Sparky can read at any level he wants. Sparky's emerged out of Spanish. He was in EL, and I don't want him to have access to Spanish nor Pearl. I can turn it off for everybody, so nobody has access to Spanish. Text read aloud. I want Sparky to have it, but not Pearl. So I'm individualizing what they see on the reading at the top of the page. So I have that ability to do that by student. The key allows me to access those students, see what it looks like on their side. This is just edit, which turns out to be the same thing as this. This button is going to go away pretty soon. So when I go to my classes, I hit actions, manage students. This will allow me to access and to change. You notice you see what's new every so often because they've changed this format since the end of the school year. For those of you who were looking at it last year, you'd have to hit edit and then go in and do it individually. Here you can do everybody on one page. So you go to your class, your first period class has 32 students. You can go through and you turn the components on and off as you walk through there. Questions on that? Okay, I'm going to go to assignments. And you notice I have some assignments. If I was connected to Google Classroom, I don't have time to show you how to integrate if you're not, et cetera, but just under professional development, which I'll get to really quickly. It will show you how to integrate with Google, Schoology, or Canvas. Those are the only three that we work with, and that's what most of you have. So you have that ability to integrate. But right now, these are the assignments I made, but I want to create a new assignment. So the green buttons are action buttons. So I'm going to hit Create New, and I'm just going to go to Lesson 1. Now, in Lesson 1, I'm going to assign the investigation notebook. And so then it's just a score of 5. Easy. If I want to assign the reading, which I can have better chance to adjust what they're doing, here's all the reading for this particular lesson. And I want them to read the introduction, section 1 and section 2. But I do not want them to do their reading notes online. So I went to assignments, I picked a lesson, I picked reading, and I'm going to unclick reading notes. If you remember under the settings and student access, I said they cannot access anything I haven't assigned. So the reading note answers questions will not appear at the bottom of the page now. The reading check will, but the reading questions won't. I want them to do it in their consumable. Now, if I go to section 3, I want them to do the reading notes online. Then they would have access to this. I can schedule it for later if I want. I can decide which students. I need to differentiate. Sparky only has to read section 4 of every lesson. So I've differentiated. I can pick which students. I can assign it as due next Thursday. Notice the default time, it's a tech thing. Unless you want to be pinged at 11:58, you might want to change the time. It's up to you. I personally don't click enforce due date. And the reason I don't do that is because when I have students absent, or I have like half my classes on a field trip, or students are sick, and we all have that, and I click enforce due date, I will have to go back and reassign for my students. I will know when they turn it in because it will be date and time stamped. Okay, it'll be date and time stamped, so I already know when it's turned in. I never fill this out, and the reason is because my students may be different than yours. They struggle to actually read everything I give them, so less is more in my beliefs. So I'm going to assign this. It'll immediately appear on the student side. If you're connected to Schoology or Canvas or Google Classroom, it will be done there. In fact, Schoology and Canvas, you can actually create this through those programs. Google, it will go to Google as you go through there. Questions on assigning. Okay, I'm going to go to assessments. This is one of the areas that people are like, okay, what about assessments? We have created an assessment. I've got lesson 5 here, and I have it checked. I can pick which one. If I wanted to do unit assessment, I could create lesson 5, and then I could create lesson 6. So I can actually add on. There's a couple ways to do this. This is TCI's assessment. This is one that I created. You'll notice my initials are here. Let's say I want to start from scratch, and that's what I often do. So I hit create new test, and I'm going to call all summit. All right, so now I've hit assessments, create new, because I like to start from scratch, even though all the TCI questions are here. I'm going to click on TCI only. Okay, because those are all the questions. The questions have been validated. And you'll notice I can add more lessons if I want in here, but I'm going to keep it simple. I can actually add the interactive student notebook questions in the lesson review game. And I can also sort questions by depth of knowledge because I have students who are only DOK level 1s and 2. All that info is here, but I want to keep it short. Now, I'm just going to really quickly create an exit ticket, for example. So I'm clicking on some multiple choice. I'm going to do a think like a scientist. And as we know with the NGSS assessments, we can't give as many assignments as we used to. Now, if I was a good teacher, I'd open these up and read them, but I'm not. So I'm just going to add it to my test. So I just clicked randomly. I added it to my assessment. And then in a second, you're going to get these orange bars that show that this is the rough draft. Orange is rough draft teachers only. You'll also notice a purple bar. That means these questions are linked together. You can't separate the questions. I want to open this question up because I want to edit it. I just click on it. I can change it. You'll notice do not randomize answer choices. The answer choices are automatically randomized. And this is good if you're giving it online, so you have those kids who look left and right. But I might have students who need, I have three students who are resource students who have to have it read to them. I don't want randomized choices, so I would make a copy and not randomize that. I can add pictures, etc. if I wanted to. I'm not going to change anything. So this is my quiz or my assessment, rough draft. If I want to take this, I can just drag it up and make it the first question, just simple. Now I want to see what it would look like if I actually assigned it to my students. I hit preview, and this is what it would look like if they were going to take it online. And a lot of these need to be taken online because there's GIFs, there's videos, there's could be sound, etc. in there. And it walks them through it. For the students, there'll be a turn in button. If they go to press turn in and have not answered it, what will happen is that it'll say, you have not answered all the questions, and it will actually box it out in red. They can still turn it in, but they've been told twice there. There. Okay. Did we get the answer for the teams? Oh, yeah. Taylor's asking for clarification on that. Okay. I can also, if I want, I can actually create my own questions, tables, writing, drawing, etc. TCI will only grade objective questions. We do have AI help questions coming out. That's in the process. It's in beta. You might look at that as you're coming out this morning in there. Okay. Anything that you want me to cover in the last couple of minutes here before we do some wrap up? I know it was quick. It was just an overview. Some of you are more in depth. Is there something specifically that you wanted covered that I did not cover? While you're looking at, click on lesson games. Lesson games are a great formative assessment. And in a formative assessment, if I click on this, I can actually assign it to students. I can have students work in pairs. I would assign this one, I'm gone just before an assessment. So I would assign it and I'd have my students work in pairs. And then we got questions and bingo, got it right. That would never happen in real life if I was just guessing. Of course, if they didn't get it right the first time, they get a second chance and get a half point. Is it possible to link TCI to Google Classroom for absolutely 100% in there? I'm not sure who you're, and I'm answering the question that Taylor was. TCI and Google, if you go into professional development, it shows you how to do it. It should take you about 10 minutes total to do that in there. It's really simple to connect the two, and then anything you create automatically goes to Google Classroom in there. Other questions you might have. A couple other highlights you might want to look at. The career profiles, always something we're trying to connect our students, especially get them interested, involved in science. There's a lot of different career profiles, climatologist, and just they're looking at it. They're looking at the profile. Some teachers assign these as extra. And there, going back to Lisa's, if you use Google, we do have Clever. We're connected with Clever all the way through as you go through. Pacing guide. Here's a pacing guide. It gives you roughly the amount of minutes. The nice thing about this pacing guide, you can export it as a CSV, which means you can manipulate it in your Google Docs or spreadsheets. And so you have the ability to make it your own. If I go to support, if you wouldn't mind going to support up here, it will take you to professional development. But lots of tools, lots of differentiation, scientific skills, etc. But as I go down towards the bottom, there's a pacing guide here too. And so if I go to 8th grade physical science, and here's the different pacing guides for the different components here as you walk through. So here's the pacing guide. I like this because it gives me weekly rather than saying how many minutes, but I also like the minutes because I'm trying to work the two together here. This is not a document that you can download or manipulate. The other one was, so if you have Cami or Canva, you can manipulate that as it goes through. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, 4 or 5 minutes left. One last component. We do have vocabulary cards. The NGSS correlations are down here, but they're also available right on those unit overview. So the unit overview is where your lessons will reside, but the lesson overview is where you're going to live, where you're going to present to your students as you walk through in there. All right, I'm going to head on back to the slides. And by the way, keep throwing questions at us because we're happy to answer them as we go through. So one of the things we do provide, and it's really important with TCI, is that we don't say, "Hey, thanks for purchasing us. We'll see you in 6, 7, 8 years when you re up." We're always there for you. We have professional development that is online. We also provide it. You talk to your account managers or your customer consultants. We constantly have product updates. We have a face group, which is really good. It's monitored well. There's not spam or anything on there, and teachers give great ideas. Facebook, Instagram groups too. In-app PD, I talked about that. By the way, these are courses, but you don't have to take the course. You can just actually click on assignments, and then it'll walk you through a screencast, like a DIY, on how to do assignments in there. And then finally, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a reflection about how you felt about this session. I know it's short, it was brief, but one to six, where you felt and why you picked that particular emoji, if you don't mind. Good, good.
Good seeing some ones and twos.
And I can handle fours, fives, and sixes. I taught for 30 years. Seen it.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I talked about is in that professional development section. And so you can find it under support or right at the top of the purple menu bar. And this will actually also walk you through it at a slower pace so that you can watch it and redo it over and over again there.
And Brian, somebody asked if this is recorded, and so I kind of showed
Yes.
them, yes, this exact video, if you want to watch it again, will be in your professional development as well.
Yep. It can be, and we'll send you a link to all of the summit recordings. So you'll have that ability to go over that. Okay. Don't forget, we're going to have 50 winners, $50 each, all summit long. So if you share one thing you learned from your favorite session, use the hashtag TCI Summit 26, either on Facebook or Instagram. And that will also increase your chance of winning the $50 gift card. You also have, yeah, you'll be entered, but this will increase the chances in there as you walk through. So hashtag TCI Summit 26. You can follow us on either one of those. I am not on either one of them, so got off a few years ago, but it's great sites. And again, we're giving $50 gift cards throughout the whole summit and even afterwards. So again, I'm here for the last minute or two. If you have any questions, please ask.